look at it, I suppose.
All right, 9 a.m. We will call the May 22nd, 2025 Brownfield Redevelopment Authority to order. Can we stand for the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That brings us to our first public comment. Any person shall be permitted to speak at all meetings of the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. The rules are printed there on your agenda. Does anyone wish to speak? All right, hearing none. Before we jump in, I think we have a new member, right? Or you were at our last
yeah,
meeting.
I think it's February.
Okay.
Yeah, she was.
Okay,
so.
sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You
Yeah.
us. Did we need people?
We should call a roll,
Thank you.
please, if you don't mind. Thanks.
Here.
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 Here?
Here.
Wow, there we go.
All right, moving on to item 3, agenda approval. Is there any modifications, or do I hear a motion to approve?
I would move to approve
I'll second.
or support.
Motion by Radke, support by Seifert. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Brings us to the consent calendar. Purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business. The rules are printed again on your agenda. Do I hear any items wishing to be removed or motion to approve, accept?
I would move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Support.
A motion by Radke, support by Seifert to accept this consent calendar. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Item 5, nothing under special orders or items removed from the consent calendar or items added to the agenda. So that brings us to number 8, departmental items. Treasurer?
Yeah, so in there is your trial balance. Not much to call out, but I do want to mention I haven't gotten any of the bank statements, so there is no interest recorded. I did get them from the county treasurer on Monday and Tuesday, so you'll see those in the next trial balance. He's just been a little behind.
Thanks, Heidi. Any questions for the treasurer? All right, thank you. Legal counsel?
No updates except for what we'll talk about in today's meeting.
And administration?
Yeah, I just have an update real quick. So I think you guys were aware back in September, we approved a contract with HRC, which is Hubble, Roth, and Clark, to do a infrastructure study for, on behalf of the Joint Recreation Department. They're doing basically an install of a new building over on the Barnes property. And the water pressure that was servicing the barns was basically not functional to pass fire code and requirements, even wasn't passing the tests for the existing buildings. So following the approval by this authority to recommend that study, over the last really 8 months, we've been working collaboratively with the City of Traverse City and Garfield Township and Munson Medical, because as you know, with public infrastructure, it often traverses everybody's, backyard. So, and there was ownership, discussions about who owned, so there was a pump house, it was owned by Garfield Township, the main line was owned by the City of Traverse City. So we were working through all the agreements between both the city and Garfield Township to make sure appropriate easements were in place. and that the engineering study was basically being reviewed by Garfield Township's engineering department and the city of Ann Arbor's, or I'm sorry, the city of Traverse City. I've been around the state a little bit this week. The project, the design engineering was submitted to Eagle for review, both on behalf of Garfield Township and also the city of Traverse City. Eagle approved the permits, and the city went out to bid about, I think it was May 5th. They went out to bid, selected contractors. There were 2 contractors who bid on it. And Monday night at the commission meeting, I think, Heather, you were there, the city, Traverse City and Garfield Township Joint Recreation Authority's water system improvement design and engineering implementation was approved. So a contractor was selected. The bids came in under budget, which was great. And we have actually a balanced reserve of tax increment revenues that we've been capturing on behalf of the city of Traverse City under the Commons project that has not been yet dispersed. So those funds are basically going to go towards this improvement that is going to really serve the entire length of not just the barns, but also any new development along that line or infill rehab that is occurring on the Commons. So when, for all parties in this case, and we're looking forward to that construction to occur. And I just wanted to give you an update on that because while we don't have to make a motion to approve it because it was already approved as a line item under the existing Act 381 work plan and Brownfield plan, I just like to give you guys these updates when we work, on these really cool projects that are, benefiting everybody, the public, and creating that collaboration between both Garfield and Traverse City, which is really great too. So, all right, that is my update. Thank you.
And you can't use that fund to fix the roads over there, right?
Well, that's a really good question, Heather, and that has been discussed. So the tricky bit is because a portion of the property is in Garfield Township. Garfield Township is a non-core community, so infrastructure activities that are basically would be completed in the township have to actually be, an easement agreement has to be put in place with the city of Traverse City, like we've done with this water line. Okay. So everything is under a utility easement agreement, right? The roads could be similarly managed if, that was our sort of next steps that we wanted to look at. They're still working on sort of the biggest issues, which is the flooding, the not just potable water supply, but we're dealing with, combined sewers, storm, how are we managing all that? That's the next steps with the infrastructure underground study. But certainly I think that is a need, but I think they also need to get under control a lot of the flooding and stormwater management, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Ann? Thank you. No old business, so moving on to item 10, new business, collateral assignment of development and reimbursement agreement by J&S Traverse City LLC to HS Traverse City LLC.
I'm going to take this one because Ann is recusing herself from the discussion because she's done some work for the developer on this project. This is an assignment agreement for the Brownfield funds that will be received on the project to facilitate financing for the project. It's been reviewed by us on the legal team, and it is acceptable in our opinion, and there's nothing that deviates from other assignment agreements of a similar character. So the recommendation is for approval of the collateral assignment TIF agreement and authorization to execute that document.
Do we have any questions for Scott? Or a motion to approve?
Move to approve the collateral assignment of the development and reimbursement agreement by JS Traverse City LLC to HS Traverse City LLC. Is that what we need there, Scott?
Yep.
Appropriate enough? Okay.
Yep.
I'll support.
All right, motion by Radke, support by Shaw. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Thanks, Scott.
You.
Item B, development and reimbursement agreement for the Oak Shore Commons project, development in Acme Township.
So, as you guys are aware, the Oak Shores Common Phase 1 and Phase 2 Brownfield Plan was approved by this authority on February 27th. Basically, subsequent to our approval, the Acme Township Board of Commissioners approved the plan concurrently on February 4th. Following that, we had a public hearing at the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners on March 19th. And at that commission meeting, the Board of Commissioners adopted the Brownfield plan. So we have an adopted, approved Brownfield plan. The next step that comes back to our board is approval of that reimbursement agreement, development and reimbursement agreement, that basically is an agreement that states that Grand Traverse County basically enters into a contract with the LLC that the development team is working under, and that we agree to reimburse them for eligible cost as they submit those reimbursement requests. In addition, they also have requirements that are above and beyond our normal development and reimbursement agreements, because of the requirements that they have to do annual reporting to the Brownfield Authority on the units that they are income qualifying as eligible. They have to basically income qualify and rent verify. And then the reporting comes to us, we review those, and then we report back to the state as part of our annual financial reporting requirements. So these housing TIF programs are really, great for our communities, but it adds a little bit more paperwork to our process. So I would, basically at this point, we are, recommending that this is approved. Yeah.
And so Acme Board of Trustees on the February 27th, February 4th Board of Trustees. This board, the 27th, Board of Commissioners, March 19th.
Mm-hmm.
And all the notices were done.
That's correct. So we notice, like, taxing jurisdictions, we post a public notice in the Record Eagle of the public hearing. So, yes.
Any other questions on this one, or do I hear a motion?
Okay, I would move for the approval of development reimbursement agreement for the Oak Shores Common Phase 2 and Phase 3 Brownfield Plan.
Support.
Motion by Radke, support by Seifert. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item C, proposal for a Phase 1 ESA, Phase 2 ESA, BEA, due care plan, and environmental construction management plan to the GTC BRA from Otwell Mobby.
So over the last several months, Grand Traverse County BRA staff, myself, have been working with representatives from the City of Traverse City, Common Ground, Envision 8th, to evaluate additional redevelopment options for 2 vacant lots that are located at 508 Wellington Street and 444 East 8th Street that are currently was a former gas station site, currently owned by Blarney Castle. The intent is to look at options for these parcels, to support a transit hub, so things like, non-motorized biking racks, ATA, what is it, a Beta? No, Beta. Beta, like a stop there for Beta. And so essentially, if the city is looking to lease the property, long-term lease the property from the current owner, And prior to executing that lease agreement, if this all moves forward, they have to do their due diligence. So we have to get liability protection for the city. And in doing that, there needs to be a Phase 1 environmental site assessment, which is a historic evaluation of what occurred on that property. And then a Phase 2 essentially is soil groundwater testing. Probably will focus on the soil because we know most likely there is leaking underground storage tanks on that site. And there will have to be soil management during the construction activities on the property. So this is just the first step to really evaluating the conditions and cost to managing that property, because we know it's a brownfield and it's contaminated, to help assist with the future redevelopment of that parcel. So it's an opportunity to use administrative funds from the Brownfield Authority to directly hire Otwell Mobby to complete those site assessment activities. If the city project doesn't move forward, there's obviously opportunities for future development with other entities that may decide to acquire those parcels. So it gives everybody a sense of, at least we have a baseline of what the contaminants are, because I think the last time they had a site assessment done out there, it was quite a number of years ago. So, yeah. So essentially the intent is to, you know, support an assessment, an environmental due diligence assessment. Yeah.
I've never heard of this before. This is the first time. And the idea is to turn it into surface parking rather than, but this assessment wouldn't preclude the not turning it into surface parking and rather putting a building on there, right?
Sure.
It's
I mean,
the
these
same-
are, we're just weighing, they're
it's the
weighing
same assessment for whatever you do.
Right. I mean, essentially, Common Ground and West Shore are woefully, you know, lacking in parking, and there's like spillover everywhere, right? So one of the intents was to create this transit hub idea, so it wouldn't just be surface parking. The Brownfield Authority cannot pay for any of the improvements on the parking because it's surface parking. It's not infrastructure in the sense that we could pay for infrastructure in, you know, the future with tax revenue coming off of the Common Grounds property and the West Shore, like we have done with, you know, basically improvements to 8th Street and the 8th Street Bridge. The only eligible cost may be, and I did seek out discussions with MEDC on this, so from our Michigan Economic Development Corp reps who approved the Act 381 work plan, they said with a transit hub, because it's creating connection and a direct impact to those brownfield plans where these, you know, 381 work plans were approved, could be considered if there's like a trail connect where you're having like bike racks come in and, you know, folks then could have their bikes standing and then walk into town. That would be something too eligible, but not surface parking, but environmental cleanup to the extent as necessary could be supported.
Sorry, are there any tanks in the ground yet?
You know, that's why we're going out there to do the assessment. We're
I mean,
not.
it's been a long time since there's a gas station there. A long
time. But, you know, I will tell you, in my experience with environmental sites that have had tanks, most likely there's orphan tanks that are probably still in the ground that were never removed. I mean, it's pretty, you know, you go back so many years.
Well, there's a lot of concrete there that wasn't there when it was a gas station, so I'm kind of curious.
Yeah.
Who owns the property now?
I believe it's Blarney Castle.
So we're doing this because who's taking ownership of it as part of the redevelopment?
Potentially the city of Traverse City with a
Right.
long-term lease agreement.
Through a lease agreement, and Blarney Castle's not interested in paying for any of the Phase 1, Phase 2?
So that's a good question. So Blarney Castle has been working with Eagle and their triage department, and Eagle has a program, a site assessment program as well. However, there's a lot of sites that Eagle manages, and when I spoke with Eagle representatives and, you know, folks like Kate Redmond and so forth, who had been talking and having these discussions with Blarney Castle ownership, the parcel that's owned, essentially the triage team couldn't come out to the site from Eagle until the fall. And they want to have this moving along because of timing. The developer, not the the current owner is actually going to implement the surface parking construction. They're actually going to do the construction on their own property and then lease it to the city.
So if we do like the BEA, that's basically removing liability from
For
the
only the
future owner.
city.
Right, but like, would Blarney Castle, if we do the phase 2, soil comes back crap, do we have any outline of like what that cleanup and whose responsibility that's gonna be? I mean, I know it's not the city, but.
So Blarney Castle didn't cause the contamination. They
Sure.
just acquired the
They
property.
own it, but like, you know, in environmental law, you own it, and if you didn't get a BEA, you're gonna pay for it.
Fair, Jeff. I will inquire if they did a BEA. I'm
Okay.
not sure of that.
It'd just be interesting to like, if we're gonna do soil testing and find out there's issues, who's gonna be at the end paying for it, right?
Right. So apparently Eagle was willing to step in because it's considered an orphan site.
Sure.
And when we have orphan sites, it means we have no viable liable party. Like, there's nobody that essentially they could go after for, you know,
Right,
the
it's-
cleanup cost. So there would be an option to partner with Eagle. But first we have to get the testing done to see what we're dealing with.
I would personally be less inclined to like go to the BEA point because that starts to like identify that now no liability is there behind us or in front of us, right? So wouldn't we just get to the phase 2 and decide what to do at that point?
Well, the BEA is really, and Scott can speak further on this, but the BEA essentially is for liability protection for the city, not for the
Well,
existing.
whoever owns it, whoever buys
Owns.
that BEA.
But the city would be an owner-operator, not an
Okay.
owner, but an operator. So because they're leasing it, they need liability protection as a operator.
So yeah, to the extent that Blarney Castle has any liability at this point, and we don't,
We don't
I'm not
think
saying
so.
that they do.
Sure.
It's on the orphan site, so that usually means that they can't find, the state hasn't found anybody to go after. But if Blarney Castle is liable for the contamination on the property today, doing the BEA through this body and on behalf of the city will not change that liability.
Okay.
So they don't, I understand the question, and it's a good one. The other thing just to be aware of is that there is a provision in the Brownfield statute that allows this authority to go after liable parties to the extent they determine that we, in essence, we cleaned up their mess.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions on that?
I just have a question. I was
Yeah.
just curious on the process to select a consultant. Does the RFP usually go out for that type of thing, or do we have an arrangement with a certain?
So that's a good question. We have done a, bid process over a certain amount, but typically, on this one, we did not. We knew Otwell Mobby had previous experience reviewing this site. To be honest, they're usually the fairest bids that we get. But, yeah. So in this case, no, we did not bid it out.
Okay, thanks.
Good question. Any others? Do I hear a motion?
I'd make a motion to approve the due diligence up to 37,759 access agreement.
Yeah, so it's pending thank you for clarifying it. All of this is pending the access agreement clarification because we had gotten an unacceptable response back for accessing the property that needs to be worked through. But we'll be working through that with the attorneys.
A motion by Straight. Any support?
I'll support.
Support by Seifert. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you. And is that everything? Great. Brings us to second public comment. Again, the rules are on your agenda. Anybody wish to speak? Okay. Any board comments? All right. I'm I'm going to make it to my meeting on time today.
Except for line 15.
No notices, oh yeah, special matters, and then we are entering closed session.
So we should note the time we enter closed session.
9:25.
Do we?
Well, do we need to have a motion to go into closed session with 3/5 of, or whatever that
Three-fifths of
number?
the board has to approve, and it needs to be a roll call vote.
And the purpose of, not necessarily
Yes.
distinct, but
Purpose of is as described in paragraph 15, to enter into closed session for consideration of written attorney-client privilege legal opinion as permitted under MCR 15 to 68, subparagraph H.
I would move to enter into closed session as written at 9:25.
Support.
Motion by Radke, support by Seifert to enter closed session. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We need a roll
Roll
call.
call vote.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 She should have won.
The other way, I know, right?
I have said, it has happened at City Commission.
I don't know, where are we going to?
In the committee room?
Okay. Do I need to?
I was checking my schedule.
Bring my
For some reason, I was thinking it was on Wednesday, but it's on Tuesday, so I should be there. My day
You're
job.
the treasurer, you gotta go. You're part of the plan.
My boss must be, my boss must
Anything
love
financial,
the
I don't like.
the ground I walk.
And then we
because
have to
I've been
come back
phoning
here.
in for
Close, okay. So, FYI. Do I need my computer?
I'm gonna run upstairs, I do have.
I'm assuming that they're just gonna tell us.
Got meetings all day, I feel so bad for him.
I have to drive to.
On our merry way. Oh, jeez.
That's right.
All right.
Excuse me.
I don't think we need a motion to adjourn, so I just call it adjourned.
We need to come back into open session, then we need to adjourn.
Move to come into open session at 10:20 a.m.
Support.
Motion by Radke, support by Seifert to return to open session. And then.
Aye.
Aye.
Pregnancy brain, I'll call it.
Move to adjourn at 10:20.
Thank you.
Support.
We don't need to vote on that, though. We're
No, we
adjourned.
don't.
We're adjourned at 10:20.
Oh my gosh.
Thanks, all. I did pretty good until then.
Yes.
Okay.
No, you did great.
I remembered